Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
G'day and welcome to Thrash and Treasure, the torture chamber musical comedy podcast that acts as a dumb waiter between musical floors. Speaking of dumb, I'm Aaron, and I'm flying solo this week as I hang up my musical hat and shave my 6-inch mohawk, because guess what? What? I have another diva in the studio today, and as one quarter of comedy troupe The Morons, he's gonna fit in perfectly here. He's a quintuple threat who first appeared on Broadway and the West End in Diane Paulus's in the Diane Paulus cutting revival of Hair, where he bared his convictions as Margaret Mead, which let the sunshine in on a stellar career thus far, which has included a whopping 5 more Broadway shows in 12 years. Shit, I haven't even seen one, let alone 5. Jealousy aside, they include Les Mis, School of Rock, plus Sunday in the Park with Gyllenhaal, as well as countless off-Broadway shows, concerts, concept and cast recordings, so many productions that it's no longer 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and he is another Broadway unicorn who has managed to evade the cuffs of the Law and Order franchise. But today, he is here to be unlawful and disorderly. Please give a warm Aussie g'day. How's it going? To the most chic Jabberwocky you ever did meet, Mr. Andrew Koba. Good morning, Starshine.
Wow.
That was so freaking hard to get. I'm going to redo that in ADR for those at home. I screwed that up.
I don't know why you would. That's the one. Listen, I listened to a couple of episodes in preparation, and your introductions are an incredible thing unto themselves. That's worth the price of admission, which is, I think, is free. But I'd pay upwards of $2 to $3 Australian dollars.
Really? That's about how much is that? It's about $1.50 American. So.
Oh no, sorry. That's no, much less.
No, you got yourself a bargain there.
No, that was terrific. I know you're stressed. You lost your co-host. They've all jumped ship because they didn't want to deal with me. So I appreciate your fortitude in pressing on.
Oh, really? I've spent the past 24 hours thinking that they didn't want to deal with me, and I should have just presumed. Yeah, it was you.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It was your presence was intimidating because 6 Broadway shows in 12 years. Holy shit. I have not even seen one. I've not stepped foot in New York, let alone seen a Broadway show on American soil.
I can't imagine they're that different than what you've seen at home. Like, I can't imagine they're that different. It's Broadway is really just like a neighborhood where they pay you the most money, right? Like the shows, the quality of the productions are the same as you get in any number of places around the world.
That's true. Yeah, no, and the prices are pretty exorbitant here. And we do get replica productions, and we occasionally get original versions. But things like Les Mis, which you did, we got the same production.
Sure. I think everyone's gotten it at this.
Didn't get your hair, and we didn't get anything else you've done.
Well, I mean, you haven't had Beautiful. Beautiful seems like the sort of thing that would make its way over there. It hasn't made its way over there.
Oh yes, yeah. We got Beautiful. I didn't see it. I tend to avoid jukebox musicals like a plague.
Yeah, I'll say this for Beautiful. Look, I'm not. I generally speaking, I don't love jukebox musicals either. Mm-hmm. What I will say is that the thing that tends to make them work more than not is a thing that Beautiful does really well, which is to let the songs act as songs, as opposed to necessarily like plot moving devices. An artfully placed song that is still a performance of a song can still move the plot forward if you're doing it smartly. And I think that Beautiful does a pretty good job at that.
Look, I will sometimes give a pass to biographical musicals because there are so many artists out there that have had a career so expansive that it warrants it.
Sorry, I've got this fan. I've turned it off. I had a fan that was making like LED light. I'm going to Disney World in a couple of days with my family.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
It's going to be really fun. And we were just looking at the forecast, and it's just going to be unbearably hot. So we bought some of those personal fans that I didn't expect to need until I was in menopause. But here we are, and I've got myself a personal fan for my walking around in the magic. So that light was going to distract me.
Yeah. So I went to Tokyo Disneyland, and
I wish I was going there.
Yeah, it was stinking hot. It was at the start of September. And I'll tell you what, I did not
Wait,
expect
the
it.
start of September of 2020?
Oh no, this was 2015.
Oh.
So this was a couple of
Oh,
years
I see.
ago. But still, and you know what? Funnily enough, about the times we're in now, going through Asia and Vietnam and China, and even in Singapore, there were people wearing masks because of the effects of the last coronavirus that was 5 or 6 years beforehand, people.
Sure.
And yet they still thought, well, I've got a cold. I'm going to have some common courtesy for the people around me and wear a mask on the streets. Now, that's really good of the people in Asia, across Asia, because it was several countries I saw it in. However, the helmets that they do not fucking wear on these motorbikes, that there will be 5 people.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yes. Now there will be the father in the front, and he'll have a helmet on, and then there'll be 2 or 3 children, and then the mother in the back. I have photos of this and video of families on these bicycles, and only the father at the front would have a helmet on, and they'll be swerve. I don't know how we got onto this safety. That's how it was.
Well, I'll say this. So we're just going to be here all night. Morning for you. I own a scooter, like 150cc, like Vespa type scooter. And my wife was very much not in favor of the idea. And so I put together like a whole pitch about why I thought it would be a great idea for me to get this thing and how safe I would be and, how careful and all. I would take the safety course and all the things. And the one really concrete rule she gave me was that our son cannot go on it ever. Like that's the rule. I am not welcome to bring the child onto the scooter, which I think is perfectly reasonable. Because I value his continued life.
But that's what I wanted to ask these people. Do you not value the lives of your family that are stacked on behind you?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you go to Bali and Vietnam, and you're going to see them in droves, and they don't care about traffic lights or cars or buses or anything. But anyways, that's completely off topic.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to know 2 questions. How much did F warn you? Because as our listeners will know, F Michael has joined us at least twice by now. This might be sometime in the future.
Right.
So
any number is possible.
By now, any number?
Well, I'll tell you, I saw F and Drew, who is at least in this moment as we're speaking, booked to be a guest of yours, but has not yet recorded his episode. Is that correct? Well, I saw F and Drew, and we were comparing notes about the various podcasts that we've been listening to and that we've been guesting on and whatever. And F mentioned this one, which I think he had just recorded the episode on which he was the guest.
Okay.
And Drew said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing that. I think I got an ask from that guy. I think I'm going to do that too."
Yeah.
And I went, "Oh, okay. Oh, well, huh." Because I hadn't heard from you at that point, and sort of went, "Oh, well, I see. I guess that's how it's gonna all shake down." And so when it did come
escalation up.
I see you want to work your way up.
Okay, leading up to Alex.
You started with F, who you perceive to be the easiest get, which I think is probably right.
Well, it was Alex offering him out to the world. He was literally pimping him out to all the podcasts, and I saw it. I'm like, all right, sure, because I'd wanted to get you all on, but I didn't think I could just go and ask you all at once, or ask Alex, being the big megastar of you 4. So.
Yeah, that's one word for it. I think it's, first of all, Drew has a podcast now. Everybody has a podcast.
Yep.
Drew has his own podcast now, and his whole, when he had me as his guest, his whole thesis was that I'm like the mysterious, elusive one, which is insane because I just don't hang out. It's not like an air of mystery and intrigue. I just I'll do whatever you want, but then I'm gonna go home. And for that simple reason, like every podcast that I've been asked to do over the last 15 months has been a resounding yes, an easy yes. I'm happy to do it. I got lots of time, and I've got a nice microphone, and I'm happy to talk to anyone who asks. It's always my pleasure. So F warned me really almost not at all. I mean, really? he sort of said like, it's fun. He goes, well, I kind of like metal. And I go, nope. You've never talked about that, not once ever. And he goes, oh, well, I do.
Oh, he talked about it for 3 hours, Andrew. We could not stop him. And then I talk as well. So get the 2 of us there, and poor Gareth, I tell you, and usually it's an hour and a half with guests, 2 hours at most, 3 hours, maybe more with F. Oh my God, I was mortified. Sorry.
Yeah, F can talk. I mean, luckily
A great guy.
F
Great
has
guy.
interesting stuff to say, and is a
Oh
good
yeah.
guy and a thoughtful guy, and I think actually a really good podcast guest. I listened to the episode that he co-hosted with you with Joanna Gleason, and I
Fantastic.
thought it was a really great episode, and
Yeah.
he sounded at least medium smart,
Yeah.
and so it was I was really more than anything relieved when the ask came in for me to come on. I thought that it was about time, and it was my turn. It was my time.
You know, well, as I say, there was a trajectory. So,
That's
you
very
know, it's sort
thoughtful.
of like, well, I want to be able to mix it up and do a build up to hopefully be able to get Alex on the show. Hopefully freaking Gareth's back by then. But yeah, okay, so the other question I had was, did you all agree to throw him to the wolves?
Do Alex?
No, F
Oh
being the first.
no, we don't
No,
care. He can do
no.
whatever he wants. F, sweet F. F has sort of found himself in this role where he's sort of like the butt of all of our jokes, and I think it's because he's like the sweetest boy. Like
Yeah.
that's that like F has no hint of disingenuity to him. Like he's just a sweet, sweet boy.
Yeah.
He's just a sweet boy that you want to give a little hug and a little pat on the head for, because he's just a sweet little boy who he just wants to be good and he wants to be loved, and I want that for him.
You want to pinch those cheeks?
Yeah, you do. You want to tell him like he's good and you're good and I love you, because I do love him. In fact, like as I mentioned, we're going to Disney World next week. F is the one who's staying at my house and watching my dog. Like
Oh,
F is
what a good guy.
yeah, he's the sweetest. He's the best one.
Yeah, no, absolute legend. I was very grateful. And he was the first name that came to mind to co-host that episode. Obviously, he likes metal.
He says he does,
Doesn't know musicals all that much.
and he
So-
definitely does. He's full of shit. He's full of
He's
shit.
full of shit. You would know. You know him much better. I've just only spoken to him for like, I don't know, a couple of hours.
More hours than I'm sure I have in the last 3 years. No, but I on the other hand had no familiarity with metal really at all.
Oh, really?
So this was I sort of jumped at the opportunity to kind of dig in a little.
Sweet. Well, we're actually doing something a bit different this week because we've gone
Oh,
back to my youth.
oh right.
Because obviously Passing Strange is about a character named Youth, so I thought, why not?
Yep.
And I've gone with a band that I used to see play when I was before I turned 16. I saw them play at a pub on a Friday night at a pub called the House of Fools, which is no longer with us. Rest in peace. And this was the dirtiest, stingiest pub, and there was 20, 30, 40-year-old punks there and pissing on the floor and spitting and smelt like shit. And
Les Mis is a lot like that.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. That's what it was like. It was like the slums of
Yeah.
France in the 1800s, inside a pub in the western suburbs of Melbourne. And here were a bunch of kids, bunch of teenagers. And by then I had my first tattoo. So I just needed to
Your first what?
my first tattoo,
Oh,
which I got at 15. And then I got my second one at 16. So it was so easy to get into places without ID because I just had to wear what you guys would call a tank top.
mhm.
We would call a singlet.
I have a very shameful tattoo, and I've got a very shameful
Yes.
one, which is on
Yeah.
the inside of my right ankle, the comedy and tragedy masks of drama. It's
Yep, cliche.
yeah, just a touch. It's I got it when I was in drama school, thinking like I need everyone to know how serious I am about my craft. And I suppose just being an actor probably would have had the same effect. But I went ahead and put it right there on my ankle, and I do a good job of forgetting about it all winter long. And then now in the spring, as I start to wear shorts again, it just my shame reappears. And anyone that I've met over not a big problem this year, but anyone I've met recently is always so surprised.
Yep, so you were young and dumb once. And then you grew up.
Now I'm old and wizened.
Yes, well, I would like to say that, but I would still want to get another one.
I want to get a better one. I'm probably gonna cover this one up.
Yeah, well, that's true. I'll agree with you on that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, no, that's a smarter. But then again, you keep it as a badge of honor of the stupid decisions you made as a child.
Sure. I think the fact that I have a continued career in the musical theater is enough of a badge of honor of this stupid decision. There's actually a line in, speaking of Passing Strange, there's a line in there that didn't make it onto the album that said, like, at some point as an adult, you wake up and realize that all of your entire life is based on the decisions of a teenager, which is, I walked around carrying that with me for about a month after seeing that show.
That's really true, actually.
Yeah.
And you know what? I missed it. There's this running theme in the show. I don't know if you heard it, that Aaron doesn't pay attention. I shouldn't use the third person, but that's the running,
No, people like it if you do that.
the playing record, that I don't pay attention, but I do. But I do have an issue paying attention to lyrics a lot of the times.
Mhm.
But we'll get to Passing Strange because obviously I chose a band called No Idea.
Yeah, World Against Reason.
Yes, World Against Reason, which is their only release on Spotify. Now, back 2001, I remember they released an EP called Super Zero, and it was amongst us Melbourne punks. Like, we had to get that EP and had to get them to sign it and everything. And we knew the band, obviously, because we saw them all the time. And everyone said that I looked like Dick.
Well, now I've got to look him up.
Yes. I don't anymore. I don't think I do anymore. Actually, you know what? I probably do more now than I did back then. Now, this was used a lot of the times to say that I was his little brother to get me into pubs where they were IDing people.
And that was effective for you?
Yeah.
Huh.
I just carried in their guitars or whatever.
Right, sure.
And act like a roadie, and if they'd question anything, he would step in and say, no, he's my little brother.
Cool.
I said to you in an email that I used to dive headfirst into the stage. That wasn't a lie. There's a thing called a slam pit. I don't know if there's a mosh pit, obviously, in metal,
Yeah.
where they stand on the spot,
Yeah.
right, and just bump their heads up and down.
Yeah.
Like idiots. Now, we actually would slam into each other. We would run back and forth and just go boom, 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 like fucking wankers into each other because we were so goddamn drunk. We just did not care. And that's how we celebrated the music and just go bashing our heads and our hands around and screaming at the stage. And
That's terrific.
yeah, all sorts of stuff. And remember, we were 15, 16, 17 doing this because by the time we hit 18, we got IDs and the thrill of being there was gone.
Yeah.
We decided to do other things.
The closest comparable experience I had, there was a band called OAR. Are you familiar at all with OAR?
Nope.
They were a ska band. Did you all get ska?
Oh yeah, I love ska. I could have picked a ska band, but I thought, no, I'm going to scare you with this one.
No, it's cool that you didn't.
Yep.
They were a ska band that was very big when I was in high school, and I think I agreed to take a girl on a date to an OAR concert. And up until that point, I mean, you'll learn over the course of our time together here that I'm a very soft man. Like I am a man with soft tastes, and I like quiet and comfort. And OAR was not my thing. The only concerts I think I had seen up until that point were Celine Dion touring.
How did I? That's a worry.
And I'll tell you, it was a good tour though. Like that,
I'm going to nod and smile and say, okay.
It was a good tour. She was touring My Heart Will Go On. It was great. At the end, she came out on stage after. So it was my first big concert, and it was at the big arena in Ohio where I'm from. And I went, and she finished the set, and I hadn't been to enough concerts to know about encores. And so she finished the set, and I was with, I don't know, probably my mom. And I was like, she didn't do My Heart Will Go On. Why didn't she didn't do it? She didn't sing My Heart. I was so worried that she didn't sing My Heart Will Go On. And then the lights didn't come up, and I went, something's happening here. Something's going to happen. And a stagehand came out with a railing shaped like the bow of a ship.
Oh
and
my
put
God.
it smack down stage center. And another stagehand came out with a giant fan and just parked right like off the stage, pointing it up at her.
Oh no.
And she came out and she sang My Heart Will Go On. And when I tell you, like, I had a religious experience, it was so exciting for me. And I think the only other concert I'd seen before OAR was Michael Crawford, the original Phantom.
Okay, now see that, while still really, really gay, I can go, yeah, cool.
Yeah. Oh,
but Celine Dion, I'm wondering how many of your mates know this story.
all of them.
You.
No, none of this is shameful for me. This is, I had a wonderful time, and I'd go again if I had the chance. It's I mean, listen, I don't want to make this a Celine Dion fan cast, although I could.
Yeah, I'll apologize to the metal fans.
Sorry, we'll get to it. We'll get to No Idea. You know the song All By Myself? At least you know of it?
Yes. Yes, every day of my life, mate. Every single day of my life.
It's like 7 minutes long. I mean, it's like basically a Meatloaf song in its structure. Like it is sweeping and epic and has like all these different sections that there's this like, whole story to it. And it's an amazingly theatrical piece. And I think I was like just starting to figure out about musical theater. And like to me, that made perfect sense. Anyway, no idea.
Yep.
All of their songs coming
Yep.
in under 3 minutes.
Yeah, from Celine Dion. Now, but the funny thing is, you say that you're a
I'm a soft man.
soft man, or I was about to say cuddly,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't know that. Now, the funny thing is, I went from being a kid doing musical theater, listening to the Spice Girls,
And why shouldn't you?
and musical theater like Les Mis I loved, and Phantom of the Opera I loved, and Hair and Rocky Horror and stuff like that.
Sure. Oh, Rocky Horse.
Then I changed schools and made new friends, and that's how I got into the punk scene. So you imagine, to everyone around me, this tiny, meek kid who was being picked on, and I was broken. Like, anyways, that's another story. Basically, what I'm saying was I was that soft kid, and then I had a mohawk and 20 piercings.
Yeah.
Which I did most of them myself, and a lot of them I did with sitting at school.
Oh, that's unadvisable.
Oh yeah, no, I would not
Yeah,
recommend
you
it to
shouldn't.
anybody,
No.
but I would do it again.
Uh-huh.
Like I did my own nose, I did my own lip,
Cool.
at least a dozen times. I did my own belly button. I did all the way up my ears.
You know what though? I think our we all have our pathos, right? Like all of our pathos manifests itself in different ways. We all have the
Yes.
unpleasantness of youth, and
Yes.
we all have our different ways of sharing that or expressing it.
And that was what I chose.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And actually, right before that, I had run away from home. I've talked about this on the show before. I ran away from home and became a born again Christian.
Cool.
So I went from being this gay kid to having the gay prayed out of me to then becoming a punk. So,
Yeah.
and here I am.
Remarkably similar to my trajectory. Almost identical, really.
But it's not about that. It is about the music, because No Idea, as I say, were like, they were the rock stars.
Yeah.
For us.
Now, were they big, or were they like your local favorite, like secret band?
Local.
Right.
Local. Like they would tour up the States and maybe to America if they were lucky to get an invite. But
Right.
no, they were very small.
Cool.
Very small. And that we didn't care because, as I say, we saw them every week pretty much.
Right.
And they weren't the only one. There was a bunch of them. There was an all-chick band called the Homewreckers.
Oh, cool.
They played in my backyard, actually. There was another one called Loners with Boners. There was Charter 77. There were Bastard Squad.
You can't beat Loners with Boners. That's an amazing name.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, no, they were exactly what you heard on this CD. They were just thrash punk. They were old school. Fuck you to society. Rah 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 rah.
Yeah.
And we loved it.
It was old school.
Anyways, what did you think?
Well, I gave it two listens all the way through.
Yeah.
And it was super fun to listen to. First, okay, so I'll say a couple of things. It's not the kind of music I would ordinarily seek out.
No, I didn't imagine.
But that's, from what I understand, part of the fun of your podcast. I think
Yes.
some of their songs I liked more than others. They do a thing. They have a habit. First of all, I think their drummer like slaps. I think their drummer's fantastic. Whoever that is, like their drummer, I think is by leagues the best musician in the group. And there's some, like he plays some fills on Another Day on the opening track that are like disgusting. These fills.
No, I think that's Rick. I do have the names written down, and I don't know where it is because it wasn't in this notebook. And I should know it because there's Dick, Rick, and there was
Mick. It was Mick Jagger. He went on to a whole different career.
Yeah, that was him. Mick, Rick, Dick, Rick, and Mick. Oh god, now I'm gonna screw it up. It's your intro all over again. As I said, I was little Dick, so.
So the drummer is like disgusting. The drummer can play the drums incredibly well.
It was Carl on drums, Dick on bass and vocals. Rick was on guitar and backup vocals.
They do some and there's some of this in Passing Strange too. I realized on reflection, they do some creative stressing of syllables on words that one would ordinarily not put the stress in the place where they put it in order to make it scan nicely for the line, which I get it. But those kinds of things always kind of pop out to me because I don't know. Maybe it's like I've spent a lot of time and a lot of my training is on like Shakespeare, for example, and that's all about like the real true rhythm of the line and making sure that
Yep.
it's spoken just as it should be. And I have a thing where I really like it when the name of the song or the show is in the show and and they sing it, because everyone in the audience kind of goes like, "Oh, they did it! They said it!" Like that's always kind of fun. And almost all of their songs start right with the title of the song, which is a fun thing. I like that. Punk's Life, the sort of like yo ho ho tribute, the pirate kind of number. I had a fun time with because that to me felt like if I was going to their concert, for example, like that would be a fun number. Like I could tell that would be like
Yep.
an experience that would be like a little bit like kind of winky and tongue in cheeky. That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Get everyone singing along.
Yeah, exactly. And drink gallons of ale. I like that. I really liked that. I don't think I've ever heard any kind of metal or punk sung with a strong Australian accent. So that was fun just for me. Although I'm sure the novelty is lost on you.
Yeah, no, I hate the
Do
accent.
you really?
I cannot stand the Australian accent.
Generally or in when sung?
When sung or done for Americans or foreigners, we tend to overdo it, mate.
Right, sure.
You might notice in G'day, welcome to Thrash and
Uh-huh.
it's natural for us because we're selling us. I fucking hate it. I really do. I don't know why.
I've noticed that I have a habit
Sorry.
of doing first of all, I really like the Australian accent.
Cool, thank you.
I can't do it to save my life. I'm pretty good at accents, but I can't do that one. I've noticed that sometimes I will put on. I've lived in New York City or thereabouts, or now I live in the suburbs, but I've lived in the area for about 15 years. But I didn't grow up here. I don't have a New York accent by any means. This is the way I speak. But sometimes if I'm talking to like a dude that either intimidates me or I want to think I'm cool, then I'll notice that like I'll start putting on like a little bit of like, yeah, I know that's what I was saying, like, and like I'll hear it and I'll go like, that's not what you sound like, why are you doing that? But I'll do it because I think sort of subconsciously, like I think it's cool, and so I think they'll think I'm cool if I do
It's
it.
an affected thing.
Yeah, it's a completely affected thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, when I lived in London for 6 months, I never put that on. I just because I knew that was phony.
A shout out to Gwyneth.
We should have opened with a shout out to. It's just respectful to shout out. But anyway, it was fun for me to listen to like hard rock music with a different accent, which I don't think I've ever clocked.
Yeah.
And it has one of my favorite titles of a song, which is Reality Schmeality.
I have a problem with that because should it be schmeality or shemality?
No.
Because that's what I always reality shemality and reality schmeality. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. I don't know. I just had a problem with that.
No, I think theirs is right, and I think you're
I
wrong.
think I am wrong as usual. Like it wouldn't surprise me.
But things like no rules, just respect is how they say it in the song, which is not how you'd say it, you know?
No.
It feels like, for lack of a better word, I don't think it is, but it feels like lazy songwriting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can come up with an alternate rhythm or an alternate melody or alternate lyrics to make it scan in a way that is more natural to the ear. Although maybe, I don't know these guys, like you do.
Not anymore. Not for a long
Well,
time.
maybe letting it pop in that way, or maybe
Yeah.
like that kind of like stubbing your toe on those lyrics is intentional.
Possibly. Joanna Gleason, I think it was set up the rhymes that they use, they only need to be enough that they'll linger in people's minds. So I think maybe that could apply with stuff like the diction and the enunciation, because will stick out in people's minds, and that's all they need enough to then sing along and be like, oh yes, that song. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I've completely butchered that. I'm so sorry. It was something like a familiarity, I guess.
Sure. No, I also think they're all a little bit short.
Yeah, they are very short songs.
Like 4 of them on the album come in under 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's what it's like. Yeah,
You know, that's what it's like.
yep. And at a pub, like, because these aren't concerts.
Right.
These were very much pub gigs. You know, the back rooms of pubs, and there'd be 50 something punks of all ages, as I say, from as young as 15 onwards. Thank God the pub is now closed, or they would lose their license.
What's the drinking age in Australia?
Oh, 18.
Oh, see, that's civilized.
Yeah, but we don't drive until we're 18 either.
So that's a lot all at once.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I think 18 is a perfectly appropriate age to drink. I think you probably want a couple years of driving under your belt though by that point.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We can get our L's and then our P plates at some point. I look, I don't know because I don't have my license. I'm very ADHD,
Mhm.
and so me behind the wheel of a car is really not good for society.
I see.
So I might be a dickhead, but I'm smart enough.
At least you're not endangering others.
Yeah, so well, exactly. But no, in terms of like the Melbourne punk scene, it's like it's pretty big, and every year there's events like there's the Melbourne Punks picnic and there's the Melbourne Punks pub crawl, where we would go from pub to we all know what a friggin' pub crawl is. I don't know to explain that for crying out loud, and you can actually look this stuff up on YouTube. I'm not saying whether or not I am in any of the footage.
You're also not saying you are.
Yeah, I'm not going to say, but there's a lot because a lot of it was documented, which is good because it was a culture, it was a community, and we looked scary.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to look back
Yeah.
too. I'm sure it's nice now in your twilight years to be able to look back on it.
Somewhat. So, did you enjoy it, or was it a shock to the system?
No, it's fun to listen to. I mean, I guess like the heaviest music that I've ever like enjoyed, right,
Mhm.
was in sort of the late 90s. Like I got into like Red Hot Chili Peppers and like Foo Fighters. That was about as heavy as I ever got.
Yeah.
And this felt like God, it felt like if the best I can come up with is like if Blink 182 had a really bad day. Like if there was like there's an anger to it, which I appreciate. Like that's cool. That's the vibe of the music, right?
Mhm.
But I always kind of bump up against like music that is angry for angry's sake. Like I just always feel like there was a Green Day musical a few years ago on Broadway, which was much beloved, and
Yes.
I saw it and also really enjoyed it. But my one kind of thing was like, these people seem like they all have it pretty good. I don't know why they're all so angry all the time.
Yeah.
And this album was kind of like, all right, what's so bad for you? What's so bad for you? Tell me what's
Yeah.
so bad for you. And I realized that like that's not their job, right? Like that's not what they're setting out to do. Like the form of this album isn't meant to be narrative or curative or prescriptive in any way, but it's music that exists for a lot of reasons, one of which is to let an audience kind of see themselves in it, right? Like, and to let a part of you, the listener, come out and hear something that is maybe even latent inside of you. And so like, and I totally understand that and respect it. And I had a good time listening to it. I turned my stereo up louder than I would have ordinarily. I think I probably scared my neighbors. As I said, I live in a very quiet suburb. And like I was rolling around town in my Tesla with the stereo pumping of No Idea, which was really fun.
I'm impressed.
It's not that fancy a car. We got the base model.
No. I'm impressed that you turn it up loud because it is very thrash.
Oh yeah, well that's how it's meant to be enjoyed, right?
I mean, when you say punk to most people, they will think the Clash, the Ramones.
Yeah, I mean, and like that's also like I like London Calling as much as the next guy. I think
the Sex Pistols.
Yeah, Sex Pistols, sure. Now there are so many different kind of subgenres. Where does this land?
This is old school hardcore punk. It is very much. That's what we would call it. There's old school and new school, and something like Blink 182 would be new school. And even in that comparison you made before, I heard behind me all the punks in Melbourne suddenly drop dead from shock at comparing them to being Blink 182 on a bad day. They would be so offended, but it's all right.
I'm so sorry, everybody. It's just, I mean, like, it's not.
Don't. It's a fun. I think it's funny.
I just mean as far as the frame of reference I have available to me.
No, I think it's hilarious, and especially think the reaction would be.
Or like Green Day on a bad day. Is that better?
No, that would probably be worse. You might as well just said fucking you too, and that would have just done them all in. Across the world, it would have done them all in.
Oh no. No, by the way, NO is my favorite word in the Australian accent, so I'm glad I got a good one in there.
No, NAO.
Well, I've heard some no, like you can squeeze in 9 different vowel sounds
Yeah.
into that 2-letter word if you really go about it. There's a show that I hope you had it here because it was an Australian show that we watched on Netflix. It was a reality program called Instant Hotel.
Nope, I didn't watch it because I don't watch
Oh,
TV, but whether anyone else did, I can't tell
I'll
you.
tell you what, it's garbage, and
Is it?
yeah, but really fun garbage. It's, I guess, the Instant Hotel is what you'd call like a short-term vacation rental.
Okay, yep.
We would call it like an Airbnb or something.
Yep.
And it's just various hosts competing against each other. Anyway, it's like a very, very Australian show.
Well, if you come across any Australians and want to freak them out, say, yeah, nah.
Yeah, nah.
All right. So, and that is to say no. So you're saying, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but nah, I disagree, or no, that's not right. If you want to say yes, you say, nah, yeah.
You know, we have that. We do that.
Well, the thing is, when we say it to
Yeah.
you guys, you're like, well, is that yes or no? We're always getting questioned on it, and you just don't know what we're meaning. So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
You know what always tripped me up when I was in England is you all right? You all right?
Yeah,
You all
that's
right?
their way of saying hello. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have that? You don't have that, do you?
No, we go, how's it going?
Oh, see, we have how's it going? You
Yeah.
all right? To me is like what every single time my reaction was like, what looks wrong with me? Like what?
Yeah.
Because to me, like if I were to say like, are you all right? Like that would be I'm expressing concern. So every time I'd come into the stage door or whatever, you all right? Yes. Why? Is something? Am I bleeding? What's the problem?
Yeah, do I look ill?
Exactly. That was always my concern. I'm glad you don't have that one. That was awful.
It's weird. Like it's such a global community now, and even more after this past dumpster fire. Apparently, I've had a pretty good year or so because I'm a hermit. So
Yeah.
how's this day any different to any other day? But yeah, no, the point of whatever that was. We'll move on anyways. Unless you have anything else to add.
No, I mean it was fun to listen to.
Yeah.
It was totally fun to listen to. I'm glad that I had the chance to.
Yeah.
I hope that they found peace and joy in their lives.
CBGB's in New York. That
Yeah.
because that had a real rich punk history, and you
I
can
know.
find documentaries on it and sort of the bands that played there
Yeah.
many years ago. So would you ever shave a mohawk? A proper one?
Yeah, I like to experiment with my hair, both top of head and facial.
Yes.
It's to me one of the best things about my job is that sometimes somebody tells me sometimes it's just assigned to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just for pose, I got to have a crazy mustache kind of mutton chop situation.
Yeah, you did.
I would absolutely do a mohawk. I'm thinking about shaving my head anyway. I really the time to do it would have been like a year ago when
Yeah.
no one was going to look at me. Now that it seems that people may be looking at me again in the future, it's probably ill-advised. But yeah, I would absolutely. I mean, especially so if it was for a gig, if someone's like, "So we want you to do this thing, but you would need to have a mohawk. Are you cool with that?" That would be an absolute yes.
Yeah.
Just recreationally, I would need to know that I had no professional commitments coming up, but just for me, selfishly, absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
So when I did 12th night in
Yep.
at Shakespeare in the Park for I don't know however long it ran, and I had a really prime mustache, like the sort of mustache that like when I would go to the playground with my son, I needed to make it really apparent that I was there with a kid.
Yep. That's a child catcher mustache.
Yeah, it was the sort of mustache that I was like, I need to demonstrate that I'm cool to be here.
Yep.
And so my wife hated it. Oh, hated it. But her least favorite thing is me clean shaven, like clean, because
really?
I actually look exactly like my mother.
Oh.
And so
Okay.
it's just it's like a little kind of jarring for both of us, if I'm being honest. And so we prefer at least a little bit of stubble or something.
So you, just like F, grow a beard so people call you sir. Fancy that.
Is that why he did it?
Well, that's what he says in the episode.
No, I grew it because I just like the way I look better.
Yeah.
I feel like I look older. I look more like a person who's not my mother. A lot of benefits there.
Yeah, no, I'm lazy. That's really what it is.
It's also that.
I haven't paid for a haircut in God, how many? Maybe 20 years since I was 15, 16 years old. and shaved my own mohawk. And like I was inspired by G.I. Jane, that movie when she shaves her head.
Yeah, sure.
As a kid, I was like, yeah, you go kick ass, honey. And so every time I do it, I think of her and I shave my head. Lately, I've actually been rocking the mustache, and the stubble. I look like Walter White Jr.
I think it's cool. I'm into it.
Yeah.
Any chance I have to have like a weird look out in the world, I'm totally into it. For Pose, I had this weird mustache and mutton chops, and I was so excited to like just walk around my neighborhood and let all my neighbors see. I'm the only person who's in the business. My neighbors are all in like finance and stuff like that. And so I'll be walking around and I was so excited for them to all see my weird facial hair. And then I remembered that it was COVID. And so my mask covered the whole thing. Nobody really got to enjoy it.
Oh, good on you. We'll be back after a quick trip to the Fosse Forest Ballet.
Coming this summer, winter, spring, or fall, the first ever musical theater sitcom, where you go behind the scenes of the latest West End show, the Fosse Forest Ballet.
Where's the important stuff? Aha! £1,000 a week ensemble rate. That's what Mamma Mia likes.
Starring Philip Joel and a West End cast featuring Kerry Ellis, Darren Day, Louise Demon, and Oliver Saville, and more.
It all started in 1987 when I was a jobbing actress working at a diner.
Yeah, it's just I had a really bad experience when I was touring Australia with a wombat.
Darling! Mwah, mwah.
La, la.
How long have I been mentoring you? 3 months?
2 years.
So her name is Henrietta.
The horse. Yes. I've managed to secure you an audition for the biggest, most innovative, and the latest show to be going into the West End. Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat. Think more along the lines of Panto.
Frozen.
You can watch this episode for the price of a coffee. Simply go to www.thefosseforestballet.com. Any and all profits go back to theatre charities, acting for others, and the theatre's trust. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll see a grown man in sparkly tights.
Tight nights. Nice. Tights.
Oh, but apparently you're not wearing masks now.
Apparently, yeah. I'm doing whatever I'm told.
You're doing whatever you're told?
I'm a very good boy. I love a rule and I love following it. So I have been told that it's okay to take off my mask out of doors, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I was one of the first people vaccinated. I was like in the door, like get me that shot.
Yeah.
So my wife and I went to Hawaii a couple months ago.
Oh, beautiful.
March we went. It was. And that was about 14 hours from New York, including the layover and, getting to the airport early and everything. And we were masked for, I don't know, 99% of it. We would take off our mask to eat and, have a sip of water or whatever. And I found that it's sort of like a lot of things. It's like exercise for me, where like at the very beginning, it's fine. And then almost right away, it's terrible and you hate it and you can't imagine doing it for any longer.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you stop thinking about it, you could do it forever.
Did you go to Oahu?
We went to Maui.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was really gorgeous. Have you been?
No, I've been to Honolulu.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the best time in Hawaii, though I got threatened and drugged and
Oh, fun.
all sorts of stuff. Some of it you'll hear in the Josh Lehman episode. I'm going to cut some of it out because I think I terrified the poor guy.
I want to tell you about Josh Lehman.
Oh, yeah.
Josh and I think both of our first Broadway shows was Hair.
Yes.
Josh was my understudy. So I had done it previously at Shakespeare in the Park, and then we were all transferred to Broadway. And when we transferred to Broadway, they had to hire understudies because we hadn't had any. So Josh was hired for the Broadway production. And so I met him on the first day of rehearsals for Broadway. And he said, "Oh, hi, I'm Josh, and I'll be your understudy." And by lunch that first day, I had decided that I would never call in sick ever, because this guy was so obviously funnier than me and sweeter than me and more talented than me. And I knew that if I ever let him go on, then I would instantly lose the respect of my company and maybe the audiences of Broadway. And so for like 10, 11 months, I never missed a show. Plenty that I should have. but I never did because I was so terrified that he was going to just run circles around me, that his performance was going to be so much better than mine that it was going to be embarrassing for me to come back to work. And eventually my wife sort of was like, we weren't married yet, we were just dating, and she was like, I'd like to go on a vacation, and that's not going to be able to happen unless you take some days off, so I think you should do that. And she talked me into it, and I did, and I'm sure he was great that weekend or whatever it was. But then eventually later he took over when we all moved to London. He took over on Broadway, and I got to see him do it. And he was even better than I was afraid of, but in a like totally different way than I did it. And so like ultimately the lesson for me was
Not to worry. Yeah.
well, that there's no real like better or not better, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like School of Rock, for example. Like I saw Brightman do it. He's a genius. I was at opening night. I was his date. He was amazing. And then when the role came around for me, I ended up being the understudy later in the run and performing it many, many times. I can't do what he does. I just can't. I could never ever play that role the way that he played it.
No, but you play it how you play it. That's
exactly
the point of theatre. Like for the kids at home, don't stress yourselves. You don't try to be what the person before you was.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, like my Brightman impression would have been terrible, but luckily we had a team working on the show that had enough sort of imagination to see other things that role could be other than what Alex brought to it, which was, you know, not better or worse. It was just different, which was really nice.
The one thing I'm always going on about with theatre is that it is about interpretation. That one theatre company takes a show and does their thing with it, the next theatre company. And I hate going to an amateur production and seeing the sets are inspired by the Broadway version, or the performances sound exactly like every single note is sung the same way, or the intonation, and I know like they're trying, and I believe like at least half of the people on the stage at any given theatre, amateur theatre, want to move up and get paid for it one day. If you want to get paid for it, kids, become your own in that character. Make that character your own. Do not emulate. I'm sick of emulation. I really, really am.
Well, it just almost never works. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like impressionism is its own kind of craft, right? Like people do that, and that's fine, and that can be really fun to watch. But I don't think there's much value in that when it comes to the theater generally.
No, not for playing a part.
Yeah, like I've understudied my fair amount. It's been a while, but I used to understudy a lot, and understanding the role Brightman created. I understudied Zach Levi, and She Loves Me. Like I can't do Zach Levi. He's a whole different thing than me. And if I were to try to, it would have really fallen flat.
Yeah.
And so I think, or like even replacing in a show. And I went into Beautiful. It was I think my first time replacing in like a principal role. I'm nothing like the guys that did it before. I found out later I hadn't seen the show. I looked at the script and said, no, I think it's probably like this. And I did what I would do with it. And that ended up being the thing that worked.
And that's why you've done 6 Broadway shows, Andrew, and other people may not have. Not to throw shade at like how many people on Broadway they use are all doing a really good job. Now, speaking of Margaret Mead, I'm going to move on really, really quickly from that. Putting my foot in my mouth again. Speaking of Margaret Mead, what would your drag name be?
I really have never thought about it.
Because I have one for you.
Oh, give it to me.
No, got to come up with yours first, and then I'll give you the one that I come up with.
A friend just told me about a real drag queen that was the best drag name I've ever heard. And it was something like, I think she was on the RuPaul show, and it was something like Sharon from Finance or something.
Karen from Finance. How did I knew you were going to say that? She's from Drag Race Australia. She's a Melbourne queen. I agree. Like to me, that's probably the epitome of drag names, and that from the lunch lady Doris or something like that.
Yeah. I just think that's really good. Yeah, there she is, Karen from Finance. See, that's it.
Yeah, no, she's fabulous, and as of now, she's still in the competition. But
fingers crossed. It's an amazing name. Yes. I love the idea of being a drag queen that's like not a big personality. Like the idea of doing a drag queen that's just a very ordinary woman.
A fishy queen.
Is that something?
That's apparently the term fishy is offensive now because it's referring to the lady parts.
Oh, sure, of course.
I can't keep up anymore. And I'm just like, please offend me with anything you can throw at me because I'm not afraid to be offended.
Drag is different, obviously, of course, than like cross-dressing, right? Like those are they're not the same thing. I think though that the drag world, from my very limited understanding of it, has never had like a really famous drag queen that is just like Karen from finance who just like packs her lunch every day. I mean, I get this drag queen looks very fancy to me, but
Dame Edna Everage.
oh yeah, I get, but she still like that's a big personality, Dame Edna.
Well, true, yeah. Another famous Melbourne drag queen, played by Barry Humphries, who is a straight man. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm ostensibly a straight man. I played Margaret Mead for a while on Broadway,
who loves his Celine Dion? But we'll sorry.
and my musical theater. Look, that was
Musical
a big
theater.
part of my journey is like figuring out that there are lots of different kinds of people, right? Like
Yes.
there are that there's not only one type of straight dude,
No.
and that it's not actually incongruous for me to love show tunes and not sports or beer,
Yeah.
and also still be attracted to women. That's allowed and that's okay.
And that's okay for me to be attracted to men but love sports and beer.
Well, no, that's against God.
No, no way. I love me footy. Have you seen Australian football?
No.
I'm going to send you a video of Australian football because...
Now, wait, is it what I would call soccer or is it what I would call rugby?
No, it's what you would call insane.
Okay.
Because it's pretty violent. But the
Cool.
drag name I come up for you was
Yeah.
using your surname as your first name, but
Okay.
spelling it Koba.
Okay.
Koba Cabana.
I love it.
Yeah, cool. There you go. There's your drag name.
You could leave the R even. You could be Cobra Cabana.
You could.
It's not as good. Yours is better.
No, yeah, I think with the A, it sort of has
Yeah.
that feminine.
No, that's really good. Nicely. What's yours?
Mine is Rose Carla Glasses.
To me, like the punnier the better.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
fantastic. That seems like a relatively recent development. The punny drag queen names.
Well, Drag Race has been slowly taking over the world.
Yeah. I've gleaned as much. I actually haven't seen the program, but I feel like I know everything about. I feel like I know everything about it just from hearing it, just from being in Broadway dressing rooms. Like I feel like I know everything that's ever happened on the show.
I can imagine. Look, I still hear gay guys say to me that they've only just started watching it or they've never seen an episode, and
I know I would love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I would, and I've met RuPaul, and like that's it was like one of the most exciting moments. Like that's an incredible person. But no, I haven't seen the show. One of these days I will. I don't have an objection to it. I just haven't.
Yep, no, I recommend, because it's incredibly talented.
You know what though? I find that no matter where in the world you are, like the people who are into musical theater, it's not a huge.
It's not a big community, is it?
Group of humanity.
No.
It's a very passionate and loud group. I mean, I think there is a big population that likes musicals, but for people that really know their stuff well enough to like talk intelligently about it or make a podcast about it, I think that's a smaller group.
Or crossword puzzles, which I used to do.
You used to make crossword puzzles?
Yes.
That's cool.
Like proper, like actual theatre magazine for
Cool.
Australia. $7 an issue. They paid me $0 a puzzle, so I stopped doing it. But no, these were actual, like, full on. So if you have a look, they're over 100 words.
Cool.
So
that's very cool.
by hand.
If you can send them to me, I would take one if I could.
Yeah, definitely. I had a whole bunch of them on a website. But yes, no. All right, we'll move on because obviously life is a series of passing strange events. That was a very strenuous.
What you got there?
Yeah. At 37, you're the elder moron. Plus a husband and a father with a rapidly blossoming career. How on earth do you find the time to look younger than me?
Am I younger than you?
No, you're older than me. But you look
I-
younger than me.
It's the beard. I have a good beard. I'm a character actor, right? Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not a chorus boy, or I don't have the talent for that.
Not a dancer?
No, God, no. I've tried, and I've been in shows in which dancing occurred, but I wasn't a part of it.
Yeah.
That's not what I bring to the table. No.
No.
It's okay. You gotta know what your thing is.
Yes, that's it. No, I'm kidding. I do look younger. Look younger than all of you. I look younger than Alex, who's like, isn't he like 30 or something?
It's 53.
Yeah, probably. Christ. But anyway, so all right. So instead, this week, because I've given up my mantle of team musical, I've written a review on Passing Strange.
Oh, I can't wait.
Okay.
I want to sit back and take this in. Okay.
It's stupid. It's really dumb.
I want it.
When I first saw the cover, I read it was the Stew musical, and I was like, yum, there's some leftover lamb stew in the fridge. Anyway, wondering how one could conceive a whole musical about casserole, I pressed play, and it turns out the Stew is the narrator, and his name is also Stew. Off to a good start, because this musical, in both album and pro shot form, are very much that, a jambalaya, a slick fusion of rock, blues, funk, and punk, all tied together by the narrative roux about a naive youth's journey of self-discovery from the projects, as you say it in America. We say projects, you say projects.
We do.
From the projects to traveling across Europe, but ultimately, while Stu's voice throughout is raspy and charismatic, it often comes across like that old dog at the pound that sings the iconic Torch song to the protagonists about how he ended up in the pound all those years ago. It's a melancholy vibe that works best in smaller doses, and I would have liked more from the characters, but then it wouldn't have been a musical about Stu. 4 stars.
Wow, that was terrific.
Because I didn't know what to do because I like this show and
Well, it's good to like the show.
well, I like the music. I don't like the staging,
That's interesting.
which I know it's controversial.
I don't feel any controversy. I think it's perfectly appropriate to have an opinion.
Yeah, look, I come from a way I can give a free pass to, but I'm not going to pay money to see Chicago unless I'm getting sets and costumes and things that I can actually look at.
Uh-huh.
That's what I have a problem with. It just
So you found the spectacle lacking.
I found the concept interesting, but not enough for someone with unmedicated ADHD.
I see.
So someone who's so erratic that I need the lights and see, I can go and see Disney musicals and not hate myself.
No, me too.
Oh, good. So I know a lot of theater people will turn that down, but
Look, first of all, I'll go see anything.
yeah.
And I've only had a great time at every Disney musical I've ever seen.
Look, I have it except at Lion King.
I haven't seen Lion King.
Oh yeah, no, it's messy.
Yeah, well, everyone likes it.
It's messy and childish, and yeah, it's awful. I'm like the only person in the world who hates it. I'm so lonely out on this limb. It's not funny.
I'm sure I think at some point I'll probably take my kid. He'll probably like it.
Oh yeah, look, you'll probably like it. Everyone else likes it, but I just
the thing with Passing Strange, I saw it twice in the theater.
It would have been exciting live. Yeah,
it was really exciting, and I've watched the Spike Lee filmed version. I think twice.
Yep.
And what I will say about the staging is I think it serves two purposes that I found to be really, really effective. Because it is autobiographical about Stu, and it's Stu telling his own kind of story. I think having him there as narrator at all times and being able to watch him watch it, even the parts that he's not narrating, right? There are sections that he's not directly involved with.
No, but he's still there though. You can still see him, and that annoyed me.
Oh, really? I found that really appealing.
I wanted to learn more about the youth. Sorry.
Oh, see, I felt like his experience of watching his young self make mistakes was sort of like a big part of what made it appealing to me. Okay, and I also felt like without the stuff that would ordinarily be associated with like a big Broadway musicale, I got to know the performers better. Like there's something very like almost kind of Brechtian about it, that there's really no artifice to it. It's just, the performers are clearly performers on a stage performing, and one does not get lost in the characterizations or anything like that, right? Like you never forget that you're in a theater watching a show. And I think because there's not, they don't go to Amsterdam and they get on an airplane set, and then all of a sudden there's a canal set, and then they go into a cafe set. Like I think.
Oh, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about something a bit more.
Like what?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't give it that much thought, to be honest.
Yeah,
Not projections, not
Right, not
projections or screens. Let's just put that out there. No more fucking projections or screens, please, theater. Maybe behind a window. Yeah, sure.
Behind a window.
Sorry.
I was listening to Conan O'Brien's podcast yesterday with Jake Tapper was his guest.
Okay, yeah.
And they went on a whole thing, which I thought was so on the money that's never occurred to me, about how big of a problem portals are in Marvel movies and how overdone they are in superhero movies. That it's just this sort of like Deus Ex Machina device. I think it's sort of lazy writing that, like, you know, you've got these god figures that can do anything. And so what are we going to do? How are we going to raise the stakes? I know a portal opens in the sky and like a million bad guys come out. Yeah. That was a pretty good point, I thought.
Or a sky beam. Yep.
Yeah.
That is the equivalent of scaffolding in Jesus Christ Superstar. Do not get me started on that, because I terrify everyone with my ranting about that overuse.
About scaffolding in that show specifically?
Yes.
That's fair. I like that show a lot.
I love that show. I don't need to see any more scaffolding. It is no longer groundbreaking.
You know what? I have a friend. So I just did this Andrew Lloyd Webber show right before the pandemic hit. He was doing this new review, and he came over to kind of put up this thing, and I was doing that. And it was fun working with him, and it was great. And while I was doing it, one of my castmates clued me into the Australian cast recording of Jesus Christ Superstar.
1992, John Farnham. How
Holy
good
shit.
is... Yep. Very good, thank you.
Let me tell you what, like, that is really like one of my all-time favorite scores. Like, to me, like, you can't really beat the movie. Like, Ted Neely to me is on another level, and Carl Anderson even like gives like one of the best performances vocally. And I've listened to every revival that's ever come out because I love the score. I love hearing the different ways that people can sing it. That Australian cast recording rocks so hard. The singing is so good.
John Farnham as Jesus is...
Holy shit. He doesn't do as much of the like stratosphere whistle tony shit that like Ted Neely does, for example. Like, he doesn't do as much of that like Steven Tyler-y stuff, but he sits just below that at the top of like a belting range and screams his fucking face off. And it's amazing. There's not quite like the pyrotechnics, but it's much more like muscular.
Well, they're all rock stars. That's why.
Oh my God, it's amazing recording.
It is. It was an arena tour they did in '92. I know.
Well, then I looked up on YouTube, and like none of them looked cool at all. Like, these are not cool looking guys, but they sing so well.
In '92 they were.
Yeah, I guess in '92. Yeah, that's true. Well, I thought it was terrific. I really loved it.
No, I appreciate that, because that's what I say. That's what I said. It's probably the best song that
the show's ever been. Absolutely.
Yes. No, I wish I had seen it, but I was too young apparently. Mum didn't take me.
I saw one of the like I know we're getting off track of Passing Strange, but I saw one of the like farewell tours that Ted Neely and Carl Anderson did.
Oh wow.
I think they did several of them, and I saw one like in the 90s when they were getting on in age, and they still sang the piss out of that score. I mean, it was still astonishing what they could do.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. I think it's electrifying. It's exciting, that score. It really, really is.
Now, let me ask you this: if you could play a role in it, who you
King Herod.
If you were directing it, who would you cast me as?
Probably King Herod, yeah.
Yeah, this is my plight. I want to be a pilot, but I think I'm a Herod.
Yeah, it's a role that you can do anything with, because it's a gimmick role. It's that comical, big, showy number. But now in terms of Passing Strange, because we'll obviously we'll get on, so I'm not going to keep you forever. Not like F. Apparently, I
don't have as much to say as he does.
Yeah. See, the punk in it is why I also chose No Idea, because that Soul Brother. Whilst I think the lyrics are pretty crappy, and I think they're meant to be crappy because they're
I think it's a comedy number.
Yeah, they're like a nothing band. But that thrash punk is what punk is.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the best representation of punk I've seen on Broadway. Where we've had a Green Day musical in the past.
Well, would you call them punk?
Well, they're pop punk rock.
I got into pop punk for a minute, I guess.
Yeah, they were to begin with.
Coheed and Cambria, and like, was Panic at the Disco pop punk?
No, I don't listen to them. I wouldn't know.
Well, I think Soul Brother is like definitely a winky number. It's certainly played that way. But that song immediately made me think of No Idea. Like I was like, this is like a perfect send up of that.
Yeah, that's why I picked that, because it's an authentic sound. So Stu obviously knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
So I'd be interested to see, like, because I know he's got a couple of other projects in the works.
He's like a real musician who writes like just regular albums that are non-theatrical, and I haven't really listened to much of that stuff. There's also an added element which I don't think was really publicized, but I don't know how I knew that the bass player in the onstage band, and I think his co-writer, was the ex-girlfriend in question.
Heidi.
Yeah. From my understanding, Heidi and him had a relationship, and that at least some of the show was based on that relationship. And to have both of them on stage watching it recreated, I just thought was pretty theatrical and compelling.
Yeah, I think, okay, in terms of with him being, obviously it's autobiographical, yes, I understand that, and him being the narrator, it adds that whole experience to it. But having that on Broadway with him is an event.
Mm-hmm.
What happens then when other companies are doing it and they don't have Stu playing that narrator? This is, I think, where I step aside from it, because I feel like then it is hogging the show almost, that it's putting that narrator front and center with the action around the narrator and not the other way around. The narrator should be off to the side, I think, or
that's interesting.
popping in and out.
It's sort of a question, I guess, of what the intention was, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that Stu or the producers or anyone involved had any designs on the show having any life beyond its very limited run with Stu standing front and center.
That's what I wonder.
And so, I mean, I'm certainly not aware of any other production of it that's ever been done.
There's a high school production, I believe, that was uncensored.
Was there?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'd be curious to see that.
And some colleges have done it.
I'm surprised they released the rights, because to me, like, Stu, his performance and his literal physical presence in the room are so intrinsic to what the value of the show is.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I would receive it with like some other actor playing the guy to whom these things happened.
And would they be front and center at the whole time, or is there a rewrite that perhaps focuses more on the action?
I'm sure there is,
as opposed to the telling of.
Yeah, I'm sure it's doable. I don't know. I'd be very curious to see how that changed the kind of like emotional life of the show, but I'm sure that it's doable.
Well, it's never been done here. I know that.
Well,
I don't think it's been done overseas either, like in
not that I'm aware of,
West End or anything like that. But no, look, as I say, that there was an authentic sound, and you can look, that can be replicated by composers, yes, and it has been done in the past.
There are just moments of it that for me are really transcendent. Like,
yeah,
the whole key, like the Amsterdam Keys sequence, I think is so exciting.
Is that where they just had sex?
Just before they just had sex.
Okay, because I don't like that song. That was really annoying.
Neither do I. It's not my favorite.
No, and really loud on your speakers where your neighbors can hear. It's really, really awkward.
And like the last like 4 or 5 songs, I think, are just again really, really effective at sort of like tying the whole thing up and kind of bringing us where we want to be, you know. And like Stu has this number, Work the Wound, and then he really hands the narration to Daniel Breaker's character to sing Passing Phase, which is sort of like him resolving to be the man that will become the guy that writes this show, which I think is just, I don't know. It also like really, I saw it while I was in Hair, which, you know, was like the very start of my career. And there was something so compelling about, like, the same reason I got this stupid tattoo, like something about like unashamed artistry, right? Like just unglaring commitment to being my most authentic self.
Unbridled.
Yeah, exactly. And this show is obviously like about identity in a lot of ways with which I do not identify. But I think that ultimately it's about finding yourself as an artist, right? And in a way that is really difficult to articulate, in a way that a lot of shows do try to. And so I think that, you know, for what it was setting out to do, I think it did it as well as I've ever seen it done. There are a lot of shows. Look at Rent, for example, like the show that's over your shoulder right now. Like there are tons of shows that are about writing one great thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to the one great thing, and sometimes is like with Passing Strange, like the one great thing turns out to be the thing you've watched this whole time. Oh my god. And like sometimes it's a little gimmicky and sometimes it works better than others, but I found like for this it really earned that from it.
But that also that story of an artist finding themselves in particular, not necessarily just people in general or young
Yeah,
people
of
or
course.
whatever, but an artist finding themselves, I think, is very, very relevant to today, where we do have a bit of an echo chamber going on
Yeah.
of generalization of people putting everyone, like I would be put into a category of gay writer, but I would fuck that off because I'm a writer. I just happen to be gay.
Exactly.
Because what I write has nothing to do with being gay.
Exactly.
We put each other into boxes for some reason, and I think and we're expecting artists to all, and I think artists are struggling to find their voice in this changing landscape of, I don't want to say political correctness or something like that, because I'm not a right wing or not left wing. I believe in common sense though. So when it comes to political correctness, I believe just don't be a douchebag. Shouldn't take having a label.
No, I totally agree that it shouldn't take having a label, but I think what we're learning, so I don't want to speak for anybody else. What I'm learning is that don't be a douchebag, which I think is a great guiding principle, requires more work than I gave it credit for.
Oh yeah, it's a hell of a lot more.
The ways in which I would perceive douchebaggatry are not the way that everyone would. And so for me, like there's a line between like, no, you got to be really PC and like, let's make sure that we're taking care of people who may receive what we say or what we write or what we do differently than the way that it was intended, just because they're looking at life through a different lens than we.
But the problem is then there's two different sides to that, and both sides are very, very loud and conflicting with each other. And I feel it's putting artists in a position of they don't know where they fit now, or at least
Yeah, but
a
don't you
lot
think
are.
that can be good? Like I think that can be good. I think that kind of uncertainty and that kind of recalibration can be kind of healthy. Like it's easy to keep on doing the things we've been doing. I think
Yeah, because a lot of it was shitty.
Yeah,
I agree on that. Look,
I go back. We've been watching a lot of old movies during the pandemic, me and my wife, and like go back and we watch some stuff from like even the '90s or the early aughts that I'm like, couldn't do that today. And my first thought, because this is what I'm conditioned for, is regret. Like, oh, it's a shame we couldn't make that great joke now and we can't laugh at it.
Yeah.
But guess what? From my straight white male cis perspective, that'll always be a funny joke to me.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of jokes that I, without taking a little extra time and care, I would find funny because that's privilege, right? That's what that is.
Yeah. I think, as I say, I think it's probably very relevant to today more than what it was back then, in that sense, I think.
Yeah.
And especially since...
Yeah, you mean Passing Strange?
Yeah. And especially since we're calling for stories by minorities and communities that haven't had a voice. And although obviously this was 13 years ago and had a voice 13 years ago, I'm saying it would fit. Even if they did a revival that, they changed the narrator to be, not front and center, to be on the side or something like that, to focus more on the action. Maybe had a set. It doesn't have to be sets.
I like the light wall. You're not going to talk me out of the light wall. I thought the light wall was awesome.
No, I thought the light wall looked great, but what else was there? Just some potholes and
for the band.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that was clever to have the band in there, but I was hoping that they would go up and down through the show and maybe we'd see some dancing or...
no, that didn't really happen.
You know what I mean? Like that we would utilize the stage a little bit more than what they did, I think.
That's fair.
And I don't know, I thought the directing of the camera work kind of annoyed me.
Really? Spike Lee? That didn't do it for you?
I know I'm going to hell for that. I love Spike Lee films, but no, I just thought it was too much.
Well, I mean, putting a live theatrical performance on film is really fucking hard, and I think the skills that make a great film director don't necessarily translate, and vice versa.
No.
So what I will say is this: like I found some of the cutting to be a little bit distracting too, but I
Yeah.
think it did do for me a pretty effective job at simulating an approximation of what the energy in the room was like.
Yeah,
on the
simulate
day.
the energy, but not, I don't think, the experience of sitting there.
That
Because
might
to
be true.
me, if I want the experience of sitting in a theater, I want a stagnant camera that just moves from
Yeah, you
side to
just want a
side,
big
because
wide shot. Yeah,
that's what it looks like when I go to the theater.
yeah, like the Sun in the Park.
Yeah, I don't
shot.
get close-ups or anything like that when I'm at the theater, do I? Or,
No.
whether they go up to the camera or whatnot. We're going to throw to another quick ad break. We'll be back in a moment with the artist formerly known as Koba Cabana. G'day listeners, Aaron here. While you're topping up your coffees, did you know that you can support our show and go on a fantastically scary adventure at the same time? Go to www.thetonistonTales.com/bookstore to grab your copy of The Toniston Tales, a darkly funny Aussie trilogy about a young boy who rescues injured animals in his spare time and the roller coaster ride he's taken on by a literal fish out of water. Written by me, the village idiot of Thrash and Treasure, you'll come to love Toniston Turnbull and the dozens of wacky characters that he meets along the way. And here is a sneak peek. Crack, thud, the human trips over the uneven ground as the Twanimal blows out the lantern. Watch your step, Cubpaw says a little too late. Why did you put the light out? Bollycosh, an open flame near hay bales? And here I thought you were smart, sir. Toniston agrees with how silly he must have sounded. What are we doing out here? The boy asks as they blindly walk around the side of the house, where they're greeted by giant shadows rising up above them. Unable to properly see in the pitch-black darkness, Toniston presumes they are the 3 hay bales. He looks around. The plains are vast, and the spotlights out in the distance, now a purple colour, seem to be too far away to bring any real light to them. They do, however, look very pretty dancing on the rippling oceanic sky. Stand back, the silhouetted Cubpaw warns with his gruff but friendly voice, clearly able to see in the darkness better than the human, who had constantly refused to eat his carrots. Grab your copy of The Toniston Tales from thetonistonTales.com/bookstore today. Hooroo!
Did you watch our She Loves Me thing that they did?
You know what? I'm halfway through it.
Oh yeah.
But I still haven't watched all of it, and that was about 1.5 years ago that I got halfway through it. So I'm sorry.
It's all right, I don't care. I don't get paid if you watch it or anything. I think it's pretty well done pro shot is my point.
Now I have a question about pro shots.
Mhm.
Because on your IMDb, it's got
Oh, boy.
Les Mis on there
Really?
from 2014. Was that ever pro shot?
No.
No, well it's on there as an entry. It's even got a cover.
I wonder if it's from like a press thing we did, maybe it's from the Tony Awards or like a morning show or something.
No, it's not from the Tony Awards.
Let's see, I'm looking at it. I'm gonna get to the bottom of
Yeah,
this.
it's on your IMDb.
I haven't been to my DB in some time. How does it look? Is it a recent picture? I doubt it. For a while, those other boys were updating my Wikipedia page pretty routinely.
F needs one.
Oh, Wikipedia?
Yeah.
I know just the man to do it. Les Miserables, the Broadway musical.
Yeah, see?
Oh, look at that. No idea.
Because I saw that and I'm like, okay, no, that wasn't released. If there was a pro shot of Les Mis released, I would have seen it by
A
now.
filmed version of the revived Broadway musical Les Miserables. Nope, we did not make one of those.
I didn't think so. Because I know obviously
Weird.
like promotional footage.
Yeah, and we've got like we filmed it for like there's an archival filming, but we didn't like film anything meant for release at all. Absolutely not.
Maybe they pondered releasing it, the archival one.
Maybe. I'm sure I would have heard. I didn't close out the show. I left early.
Yeah. Okay, about Les Mis, because obviously that's a epic production. And it's very popular with audiences and tourists. Now, what's your experience with the standing ovation these days?
It's I think it's basically a default.
And I think, look, you know what? I'm sorry for you guys because I'll relate it to my novels. When I give someone my novels to read and they say to me, "Oh, that was good," I can tell they didn't like it.
Yeah, sure.
But when they come back and say, "Oh, wow, I really liked that," then I can tell they really liked it. And if they didn't like it, I want them to tell me.
Oh, I don't
So
want an audience to tell me if they didn't like it. Although they will.
they will, yeah.
What I'll say is there's almost always a standing ovation, not just with Les Mis, with everything. There's almost always a standing ovation. Occasionally there is not. It is much more rare for there to not be one. And that I usually find to be a real indictment of what has happened that evening. Like, to me, to not have one is much more of a statement than to have one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think the reason they're so popular is everybody wants to be a part of something, right? Like everyone, if I just paid $200 or whatever to go see this thing, I want it to be amazing. I'm rooting for it to be great. And so at the end of it, I think if it was even good, your kind of standard audience member who bought a ticket to a thing, want to really have loved it. And so you get on board.
Yeah, no, I can understand that point of view, but no, if I've paid $200 for something, I'm sitting down as long as I have to. I'm not doing any fucking work while I'm there. God, they can stand up for me. I've asked a number of people about it, so I feel like actors themselves want to feel like you earned that. I want to feel like I earned the praise that I get back from people, not pat on the back.
You can tell if it's like really, if they really mean it. You can tell if it's sort of de facto or if it's like really, really intention.
Yeah.
There's a clear difference. Even during a show when there's not applause happening, like you know when an audience is with you and when they're picking up what you're putting down. You get to kind of feel that out.
Mm-hmm. And what's been your most awkward stage door experience so far?
Somebody got a tattoo once of my autograph.
Oh, that's weird.
It was just, of all the choices to make,
Yeah.
that felt weird. Somebody once, I remember when in the early days when I was dating Farrah, I mean, like Hair, which was like 12 years ago or something, was really a big deal when it was sort of like the biggest deal show I've ever been a part of. Like it was culturally like a moment. It was my first show. It was my first kind of time being an actor at the stage door. And it was the first time social media was just becoming really a thing in a way that was meaningful. I joined Twitter because our producers had a sit down with us. We're like, there's this thing called Twitter you might want to think about. There was one day where someone asked like how my girlfriend was, but they used her name. And I hadn't put it, I realized that I had just been accepting every friend request on Facebook. And so that must have been kind of how that happened.
Yeah.
But like, I hadn't like publicly said like, this is my girlfriend and her name is Farrah and she's this.
Yeah.
Somebody said like, oh, how's Farrah? I know she was sick last week. And I was like, oh, what? And I had to have a very like hard think and ultimately like a very uncomfortable conversation with that person about like boundaries. And really ultimately it was about me learning how much to kind of share with people and how much not to, and like where my boundaries were and how to enforce them in a way that was respectful of everybody. But I guess that was a pretty weird one. It was it's also always really funny watching, not funny, but like interesting watching incredibly famous people at the stage door and like the grace with which they can swim in that sea. You know, like watching Jake Gyllenhaal do it is very different than like watching F do it or me do it or even Alex do it. Like it's a different thing.
It is. I've watched David Hasselhoff and Barbara Eden, who was I Dream of Jeannie, because of what I told you before with Adam. I was at a convention with him. So we were sitting behind him watching them sign autographs.
Yeah.
I had an eye twitch that whole time. I was sitting there, I'm like, oh God, this is so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, I understand it. Like, you know, people that are on a show that I love, right? Like they're a part of your life, whether or not they know you, which they almost always don't. They're a part of your life. Shows that are really meaningful to you are meaningful to you, whether or not they're, you know, real tangible, interactive elements of your life.
Yep.
And so it's sort of like a very weirdly one-sided encounter when all of a sudden that thing is in front of your face. And to be an actor or a public figure, I guess, of any kind that can handle that gracefully is really an art. And like, I think something that probably requires a lot of practice. I met Bill Clinton once, former American President Bill Clinton.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. I think. $1 in the jar, though.
Uh-huh.
Bringing up politics. Yep.
I met him at the Beverly Hills Hotel. He was like leaving while I was coming in.
Now that's a strong flex.
Well, anyone can walk into the lobby. And I was walking in the lobby, and he was coming out, and he was kind of shaking hands, and I went to go shake his hand. And I'll tell you what, like, setting any politics aside, I'm not talking about his politics or his policies or how he was as president. That man looks at you, and your knees get weak. Like, there is something about him. There is that, like, Kavorka, if you're a Seinfeld person, like, there is like a magic energy about him that just fucked me up. I was trembling for the rest of the day. And I've met some pretty famous people and have never had a reaction like that. That was like, there are some people that have a real like animal stank about them, something that like the pheromones in the air, the temperature changes. It was a crazy thing I've never felt before.
Well, I can't imagine. But I have heard that Bill Clinton is able to get people on their knees before he fucks them up. Very good wording.
Yeah, that's great. I got you a pun there just for you.
Thank you. Okay, so speaking of passing strange, now your agent sends you a bunch of strange ideas. Which ones do you pass on?
Okay.
Fight Club the musical.
What's the role?
Tyler Durden, of course.
Oh,
you do not strike me as a Edward Norton. He is a nerd.
I thought you were gonna make me Meatloaf.
Bitch Tits Bob.
Yeah. No, I think I would take Tyler Durden. Sure, I'd go on that audition. Absolutely.
And wouldn't that work as a punk musical?
Yeah, of course. It would have to be. Nothing else it could be.
I so badly want to write it myself. If I swear to God, anyone else announces it, I'm going to fight them with my bare hands. Because look at me, I'm strong enough to. Schindler's List, the rock opera.
Oh. I mean, I'd look at the material. It wouldn't be a pass on spec. I'd read the script.
All right. Cool. I think it's been done as an opera, hasn't it?
That makes sense to me. If you're going to theatricalize it, that's probably the medium.
I think it has it, yeah. Or am I thinking of Edward Scissorhands, which is completely different? Why would I be getting them? Holy shit, what goes on in my head?
Same era.
Oh my God. Okay, Samurai Pizza Cats. Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't remember Samurai Pizza Cats?
No.
Where do you go when you want some pepperoni?
Maybe we didn't get that here.
Really? Oh.
I don't think so.
Okay.
But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles I would do.
Well, that was done into a stage show. You can see it on YouTube.
I think I'd be a good Leonardo or Donatello.
Yeah.
Probably Donatello.
I'd be the rat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Saw movies.
I'd read the script. I'd read the script.
You'd read the script.
If it was compelling. Yeah. I would be leaning past, but I would read the script.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a script I wouldn't read. Like, I don't think there's anything that just like totally as an idea. Well, maybe that's not true. That is probably not true. But no, Saw wouldn't be an automatic pass.
Really? Because remember, they did do a 9/11 musical and it worked.
Yeah, that would probably be a pass. Like,
hello, it's Come From Away. Have you not seen it?
That's right. Yeah, but it's not like no, I've seen it, but it's not like
Okay. Oh, good. At least you have. Shit.
Actually, no, I haven't seen it. I've just seen clips.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's not like a musical. I mean, I guess it is a musical about 9/11, but it's not like glorifying 9/11. You know what I mean? Like, no, that would be a pass.
Yeah, it's the after effects of it. Like that movie, a Charlie Sheen movie, the 9/11 one that's set in an elevator shaft or something like that.
Oh yeah. No, that's not probably for me.
No. And then I was trying to think of what other really terrible ideas there were, and I'm thinking like Showdown in Little Tokyo, but that would totally work.
Yeah, I think it would kind of work.
It would kind of work, wouldn't it? Because if they've done Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. I think I really think you're like hard pressed to find a story that, given the right treatment, couldn't work. You know, like I think there are topics that are probably taboo, rightly, but I think given the right angle, like, you know, you wouldn't think on paper Book of Mormon would work, and now I guess a lot of people feel that it doesn't. I haven't actually seen it either, but
I think it's fantastic. But I'm not easily offended. So.
Without that treatment of it, right? Without like the right kind of angle to it, it would never work.
Yeah.
So I think things are different now than they were a year and a half ago, and I don't know how yet.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to take a little bit of time to kind of figure out what we as a business and what the ticket buying public have an appetite for.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's the thing. I think also there is that difference between the ticket buying people and those who are on Twitter complaining about certain things.
Yeah, of course.
Which and I can only ever speak of the gay issues and stuff. Like when someone would say that there's not enough gay representation on Broadway, I'll lose my shit because we fucking own that street or that place. Oh my god, and we always have owned it. What more
Yeah.
do you want, really? The fact that we let straights on there is a miracle. So, anyways, not including myself in that, obviously, and clearly we don't actually own it, but the point is that do we actually need more representation? But trans do, non-binary do. That there's a difference there.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people behind the scenes and on stage, like people in positions of power, there are lots and lots of gay people in theater. They're probably overrepresented in terms of like proportions to the general public, but you don't see a ton of stories that feature gay characters, right? Like there's not a ton of representation in the
Do you know
stories.
why though? Because they're all boring. Trust
Well,
me.
you shouldn't tell boring stories, period.
I lead the most boring life. You do not want it in a musical. Also, like I've noticed that same with cinema, once the lead characters are gay, it becomes gay cinema in quotation.
Well, that's
marks.
that. I think that's something that really does require a lot of work, right? Like having characters, especially characters, for example, that are, characters that are in a wheelchair, a character that has a limb difference, right? To have a character like in Oklahoma, I think they did a great job, for example, of having a character with a physical difference that their character wasn't about that, right?
Yeah.
Like why couldn't there be a character with a limb difference, for example, in a show that it's their character isn't about that thing about them, right? Like there's no reason for that.
Well, no, it's not just the casting.
Well, of course, but that's what I'm saying. It's like I wish there were. I don't see any reason why there shouldn't be more shows with gay characters that are not shows about their gayness.
Yeah, no, I agree. But even then, like I don't really write gay characters myself for some reason. Like it's I don't know what it is. Like because people tell me like, oh well, why don't you? Isn't that homophobic or shouldn't you be representing your community? But as an artist, I want to represent the stories that are coming out of my imagination. And if a character pops out of that isn't gay, well then they're just not gay. If they are gay, then they are. And I'm not going to force them to be one. But what I'm saying, I understand what you're saying in that. And I'm trying to think of a good example where, look at Mean Girls. I guess we've got the Damien character who is very gay. But it's not necessarily about him in general.
Yeah, it's not really his story, is it?
Yeah, Patrick Bateman, I think, is bisexual.
Is he?
I think in the
That's
novel.
fun.
I have the novel right here.
I didn't see the show. I don't go to the theater that much.
Did you see King Kong?
I did see King Kong.
What did you think?
I thought that gorilla was really, really impressive.
Wasn't he cool?
Yeah.
I saw it in Melbourne, so I saw a different production to you guys, but the same puppet.
I had worked on a different production than even made it to Broadway, like with previous writers.
Oh, really? Did you have like the Avalanches and I think Sarah McLachlan?
No, I had done some readings when Jason Robert Brown was working on it.
Oh, okay.
And his music was like terrific. But yeah, I saw it. I thought that gorilla was really cool.
Yeah, because I've been asking a lot of people, did anyone see it? Because as I say, we saw it in Melbourne, so we saw the world premiere production. Very, very different. The only song you guys kept was Full Moon Lullaby.
I remember the song about how like there was a song about how much the captain loved his boat. There was like a love song to the boat that I was like, man, that guy really loves his boat. That's all I remember.
No, I don't remember that.
Also, like I had a few friends in the cast. I thought it was a really well performed show.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, that's another one where like if you're spending $200 on your ticket, you see it up there, That's
it. You want spectacle when you go to something like that.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm buying a ticket to King Kong, that's what I think I said on the night. I was like, if I was coming from Indiana and I was going to buy a ticket to King Kong, I was like, I want to buy a ticket to King Kong the musical. I would feel like I sure got my money's worth. That's exactly what I was signing up for.
Yeah, and look, at least we got original music in it. We
Yeah.
did. It wasn't a jukebox musical because it very easily could have been.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really fun.
Yeah, I think for those reasons it gives it a pass. But one last question, because I won't keep you any longer. What theatre are you eager to play in?
The Delacorte, where they do Shakespeare in the Park, is my favorite theater in the world.
Yep.
At least that I've performed in. It's a magic place. It's the best, to me, the best work in the world is done there. It's the best place to watch a show. It's the best place to do a show. And it's outdoors, so it's an especially safe time to be there. So I would say the Delacorte. I would also really like to, my other favorite place that I've been where I'd like to spend a lot more time is France. And if I could get into, there's like a couple of like English speaking musical theater schools in Paris. And boy, would I like to go and work over there for a little while and just like do some work there. They've got, like, they do English musicals. And I speak passable French, but like they do English musicals. And I would love to have a little career doing musicals in Paris. I think that would be really good.
Why not? Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of Americans go over to Germany to perform, and they've got
I
a
know.
lot of like Starlight Express is still running after 38 years or something like that, or however long.
I mean, I really, one of the things for me this last year is that has been really the hardest is I love traveling and I miss it terribly.
Yeah.
And so I think if I'm like very, very itchy to get around the world right now. And so I'm hard pressed to think of any performance opportunity that would take me across an ocean that I would pass on. I would just love to get a little, a little time outside of my country.
Yep. No, I don't blame you. I'm eager to get traveling. So, have you been to Australia yet?
No, I'm dying to go.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the right kind of opportunity, you know. It's just all the way over there, you know what I mean? Like you're all the way over there.
Yes.
And I'm all the way over here. That's the real problem between you and I.
Yep. It's a 19-hour flight.
Yeah, I would like to go. I like your people and I like everything that I know about your country and about New Zealand. I would do a little two-stop thing.
Yep.
And someday I really hope to. It does feel a little bit like I think probably the reason I haven't gone yet is it feels a little bit to me like if I'm going to go all that way, I want to get off the plane in something completely different. And which is why I sort of feel like I haven't really done East Asia at all. And that's like the next thing on my list is I'm dying to do like a swing through South Korea and Hong Kong and Singapore and Japan.
Yep. Japan is amazing.
We were supposed to go to Japan last year. I had tickets and everything.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah, no kidding. So like that's going to be the next trip, and I promised my wife I would take her to the Maldives. I think we'll do that soon.
Wow.
But like to me, if I'm going to go on a plane for 24 hours or whatever, I want to get off and be in Wonderland. And while Australia seems amazing to me, it also seems familiar and sort of accessible in a way that I really appreciate when I travel. Like when I went to Hawaii, it was just different enough that I was like, I've gone somewhere. Like there's volcanoes and stuff. And I'm sure that I would get the same thing in Australia, but I think that's the reason I haven't been yet. Is it just like I want completely different. I want to see something that I have no experience with.
Yeah, no, that's I can understand that because I don't want to go to Thailand because there's too many Australians.
Right. Have you ever been to New York?
No, I've only been to Hawaii in terms of America.
Well,
but then,
it's like that, but less, volcanoes and palm trees and more people. Well, I'm sure I'll get around to it. I mean, it's one of the, like I said, one of the good things about what I do is that it takes me to some places, and I'm hoping that there will be more and more of that in the time to come. And look, now because of your podcast, when you come to New York, you'll have a whole bunch of people to hang out with.
Yeah, thank you. I'll probably be by myself, so I will need someone to have a drink with.
You come hang out with me and the boys.
Yeah, awesome. No, I appreciate that, and the same here in Melbourne. I'll show you around all our best drinking spots.
I appreciate it.
I don't know any of them. I really don't know any of them. But yes, no, it's an absolute honor.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for joining me on this show. Before you go, where can people find you on the socials?
Right, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Andrew Kober. It's Andrew Kober, and I quit Facebook and I don't do any of the other ones. So just, you can get at me on those ones. On Twitter, I mostly yell about stuff I'm mad about, and on Instagram, it tends to be pictures of my cute kid and dog.
Yes, and you can find him soon on nightclub stages as Koba Cabana.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much. And everyone at home, you take care. Hooroo.
Cool. That was really fun.
Awesome.
Like Quixon!